Hey, it's been a while since I've recorded one of these. I decided to just pick them back up and continue with this series called The Road to React Add-on. I forgot what I called it. But basically, there's a book called The Road to React, which I felt like is a very good book, which is hard to find in the technical world. And I decided to talk a little bit about it. I have been tutoring for 4 years. I have a CS degree, and I am now a professional full stack developer. And I love teaching, and I know, and I try to remember how tough it is to learn some of these concepts. I struggled quite a bit, and I still do. The learning will never end, but here we go. Let's just get into it. So last time I talked about React class components, right? So I did not like what I said about the difference between functional and class components, to be honest, because I don't know all the details of the exact difference between them two, and you don't need to know all the differences to some extent. You just need to know on a high level what the differences are. So I figured, let me just pull up a good page. So if if you want to know a little bit more about it, obviously do your own Google search, your own research. I like, excuse me, I like this Geeks for Geeks side, um, where they talk about in this particular case, they're talking about the difference between functional components and class components. And the part I really liked was really down here, this this comparison between the two, and I really loved it. One thing, I mean, read for yourself, but one thing I liked was really the most important part is function components are known as stateless components, while class components are stateful. They maintain a state. You have control over the state, etc., etc. With hooks, though, and function components, things are changing, but overall, that is a good distinguishment between the two. Um, Another thing that's really stood out is the React lifecycle methods. They cannot be used in function components, like for example, component mount, while in a class component, they can. So I know this is confusing. What is component mount? What are lifecycle methods? I don't even think we went over them. I don't remember, to be honest. It's been such a long time. And sorry if my voice is a little bit off. I have these white strips in my mouth and decided to record this episode, shaking my head. But anyways, I hope it comes across clear enough. Okay, so again, yeah, I mentioned hooks. Now you have hooks and function components, and you can make them stateful, I guess. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, here we go. Let's move on to the next chapter. That's what this video is supposed to be about. Here we go. React class components, state, and it's literally just 2 pages. It's crazy. It's super short, but that's why I like this book. I like the fact that it's not. I hated the idea of any book having, especially technical book, having long chapters. It's just like, what? You got to be complete, I mean, nerd and fanatic to go through a book with chapters that are hundreds of pages long. Um, I'm not that person. So I like things chopped up as much as possible and then dissect them one tiny bit at a time. But anyways, here we go. Before React hooks, class components were superior to function components. He keeps saying function components. I guess that's correct. I've been calling them functional components. I think that's incorrect, I assume. Um, and uh, and one thing, I mean, obviously read this for yourself. This video series is about you getting the book, learning React through the book, and just adding, this video series, me as a tutor, as an add-on. That's what I am, just a different perspective, hopefully. Um, and here we go. What stood out here is that, um, let me see, what was it? I should have highlighted what really stood out here. React class components down here, one thing I will highlight is that there's two ways to access the state or to interact with the state, this.state and this.set state. And in React's functional and function component, that is, I'm not even sure if function component is the right term. So maybe function component, maybe I'll just start using that if I can remember. React uses a use state and use reducer hooks to handle things related to the state. But yeah, and then you know what? Let's just move on. Honestly, just read this for yourself. I'm not going to read this for you, and you could probably pause the video and read this this chapter from here. Uh, but I'm just going to move on to an example. There's an exercise. Bureau has an exercise, suggests an exercise to writing a class component for input, and so I pulled up an example for that on React's official documentation page. Here it is. There's a class named nameform. Obviously, it has to extend React's component. We have a constructor, we have a method, we have another method, and then obviously we have the required render. And here's what stands out. Here's the input field. But there is such thing as a controlled input, a controlled component. You want to, and it's just like the name suggests, it's controlled. The input is controlled. So, which is really fascinating because I always thought it was kind of weird. But look at onChange. When there's a change in the input field, when you type something in, it calls on, here's the weird part, it calls on this.handle change, which we binded. Is that the past tense of bind? Bound, which we bound. I think that's it. Right here at the top. And what this does is it sets a state, the value state. This right here is whatever is inside of this input field through event.target.value. Event is what comes in as an input. So then the value, here's the weird part, it's almost like a weird catch-22. Then the value gets set here through the state. So we set the state here and it comes back down here and updates. So it kind of goes in a circle. So here's onChange, goes up here, sets the value for the state, the value state, and then the value gets set right here, down here. Incredible. I always thought that was so interesting. So now you have access to this value state anywhere in the form. That could come in handy, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to follow. Again, I've been tutoring for 4 years, and I would love to help you understand some of these technical frameworks, concepts, and languages a little bit better. So yeah, so just subscribe and follow me. With that said, I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.